From the TLV1 studios in Tel Aviv, Israel, it's Louis Live. That's your host, me, Ari Louis. Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. It is 7 o'clock Tuesday night. It's Louis Live coming at you here on TLV1.FM. We have a great show, a lot of great guests. We'll have later on in the program David Z. Harris to talk about Israelis and Arabs playing football, also known as soccer to the Americans. Sandra Maracantonio is going to talk about playing in the Paraplegic game, so it's a very important story. Tall Erel from the Israel national baseball team and much, much more. But on the line right now to talk about Maccabi Haifa versus the Phoenix Suns last night is our good friend and frequent contributor to the Jerusalem Post, Joe Robbins. Joe, welcome to Louis Live at TLV1.
Hey, Ari. Great to be back.
Yes, always great to have on Joe Robbins. And let's get right into it. It was not such a good outing for Maccabi Haifa. They lose in a blowout fashion. Tell us about it. Obviously, no one expected Maccabi Haifa to beat the Phoenix Suns. It's an NBA team. But give us the recap of last night's ballgame.
Yeah, last year Maccabi Haifa came to America during the preseason. They faced the Golden State Warriors, put up a good fight, but ended up losing by 8 points. And that Maccabi Haifa team was the same Maccabi Haifa team who went on to unseed Maccabi Tel Aviv and win the Israel League Championship. Unfortunately, they lost their coach and most of their stars, and they lost last night in Phoenix by 41 points. So Definitely a new team, a team in rebuilding mode. I think they put up as good of a fight as they possibly could have, but they have a couple returning players, nobody NBA caliber, and the Phoenix Suns, even though they're a pretty new team in terms of all the roster moves they made, they're a team of veterans and a team who was ready to play, coached by Jeff Hornacek of great Utah Jazz fame, all his years with Malone and Stockton. He said they wanted to run and gun in in training camp. Phoenix actually took some flack from the media there for running too fast, saying they were going 110 miles an hour. Maybe they should have been going 100 miles an hour. Last night, they didn't seem to have any problems with that. They had 16 steals as a team, too many fast break points, and Maccabi Haifa, they put up their 89 points, which was great, but they could do nothing defensively to stop Phoenix.
Maccabi Haifa obviously losing Brad Greenberg. He's coaching in Jerusalem now. Corey Carr, their captain, he's moved on. Gal McCall's gone to the Dallas Mavericks. So you're right, definitely a different team than the team that won the championship last year. As far as the Suns, they have a new coach, Jeff Hornacek. You mentioned with the Jazz, he played, also starred with Phoenix. But let's call it like it is. This is not the Steve Nash days. This is not the Mario Stoudemire days. This is a new team. How bad was it that Maccabi Haifa lost this many points to a team in the Suns that was one of the worst teams in the entire NBA last year?
It's definitely bad. On the one hand, I think it shows, like you talked about, Gal McDougall leaving. I mean, and Greenberg, Maccabi Haifa's real returning player who can make an impact and was an NBA draft pick was Donta Smith. And then after that, you've got Sherwood Brown of the Florida Gulf Coast Eagles fame from last year's terrific March Madness run. But even with the most exposure on the biggest level as a Cinderella story, he didn't make the NBA. And so when those are your two biggest NBA prospects, you're just not going to be on the level. Having said that, to lose to an NBA team in flux, like you mentioned, definitely isn't the showing that Maccabi Haifa wanted. But the Suns clearly, when they made the trade for Eric Bledsoe this offseason, a blockbuster trade, and said he was going to play with Goran Dragic, and Suns fans weren't really sure if that was the case or if they were going to move Dragic. Clearly playing them tandem worked last night. They were the two leading scorers. They were alley-ooping to each other, which is pretty cool to see, 2 point guards completing an alley-oop. Not cool for the Haifa fans,
right,
obviously. But I think that it's not as bad as it looks on paper when you take into account that Phoenix has been able to put it together so far much more than Haifa has, even though both are in rebuilding situations. And then just the athleticism. Phoenix with the Morris twins, some of their players, P.J. Tucker and Moran Roth, Haifa's starting point guard, were teammates back in Israel 6 or 7 years ago. I think that's the only connection between the two teams when it comes to basketball. Clearly Phoenix in the best league in the world and Haifa in rebuilding mode.
All right, last question we have for you, Joe. Talk about the Jewish community of Phoenix, how big of a deal it was that they got to do something Jewish. You have a team from Israel coming into their town of Phoenix. Of course, I grew up there, and it is somewhat of an Israeli connection, Zionist connection. So talk about the Jewish community of Phoenix in regards to this game.
Yeah, anytime an Israeli team comes over, it's huge for that local Jewish community. The NBA has done a great job of making sure that in addition to the EuroLeague teams, it brings over usually at least one team a year is Israeli. So I personally, I covered the Maccabi Tel Aviv New York Knicks game in 2009 at Madison Square Garden. No questions, Phoenix Jewish community was thrilled for this game. It's a chance to show your Jewish pride, your Israeli pride, just like a lot of teams in the first couple of years made their Jewish Heritage Night, and some still do, whenever Omri Caspi's Kings would come to play, and then even Cavaliers. It's that same sense of pride. It's a great thing, especially this year after the Chagim. A lot of the Jewish communities across the country are on a high, and looking forward to getting the NBA season rolling. And I think that's the best thing for the Jewish community sports-wise, is being able to get an Israeli team to come in and face off against their team. Maccabi Haifa travels to Detroit tonight, also in a rebuilding mode. Hopefully they'll be able to put up more of a fight than they did last night. But either way, Detroit, another market with a great Jewish community. No doubt they'll be out for that one. And people can actually watch the game online through NBA.com at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So even for the fans outside of Detroit, we can take some pride and watch the Israeli team go up against the Pistons.
All right, Joe, great stuff. Thanks for your time on Louis Live. Enjoy the game. We'll speak with you soon.
Thanks a lot, Ari.
All right.
That's a good one.
All right. That was Joe Robbins. We'll take a quick musical interlude on the other side from the Israel baseball national team, Tal Erel. This is Louis Live on TLV1. Back here on Louis Live on TLV1. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at TLV1.fm. If you want to email me personally, it's arilouisshow@hotmail.com, ARILOUISSHOW@hotmail.com. On the line right now from the Israel national baseball team, Tal Erel. Tal, welcome to Louis Live on TLV1.
Hello.
Tal, it's great to have you on the program. And, I did the play-by-play of the Maccabi, so I saw your team and saw you play in the summer. It was a lot of fun. I want to go first to the semifinal game against Canada. That was an 11-inning thriller. Your guy, Ben Abraham, pitched great. Controversial play, which you were involved with. There was Canada. It was a 1-1 tie game. Canada had runners on bases and hit to center field, a pop-up. Yehuda Jofi caught it, threw to you. And as Bradley Margolin was running, it looked like he ran out of the base path, and that's why you weren't able to tag him. Did you think he was out, that he illegally ran out of the base path, or was that a correct call that he was safe? Tell us your thoughts on the play.
I still think about that play, even though it's a couple months after.
Sure.
But in my opinion, I'm not sure if he went out of the baseline, but he may have been still in the baseline because that was inside of the baseline. It was near the dugout, the baseline near the dugout, and I wasn't nearly on the baseline, so I couldn't actually see it, so I had to jump to get him. So I'm not sure where he stepped or not, but I still think about it, but I'm not sure if he stepped out of the baseline or not.
It's one of those things.
Sure.
Yeah, we don't have television replay of it, so it's hard to tell. But I got to tell you, Tal, if it makes you feel better, I had a Canadian person who does do umpiring. He didn't umpire the game, obviously, that game. He told me that he was out. You did your job correctly, and he ran out of base pass, and the old play umpire missed the call. Happens in baseball. So you should not lower your head. You should feel good about the play. You were in the right position and did the right thing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about more about that experience, because in that tournament, you guys beat the United States team, very powerful team that threw 2 no-hitters, two amazing pitchers, and just a whole team. You guys beat them 5-3. Tell us what that memory was like for you.
It was unbelievable. I don't think anyone expected us to beat America. But in our heads, we knew that we could beat them. Our team, the national team, has been practicing together for about a couple years, I would say 4 or 5 years together. So our communication as well, we get the best coaches come and coach us each day. We all play together. And I think we knew that we could beat them, and all we need to do is 3 steps in baseball. If you pitch well, if you bat well, and if you play defense well. If you do these steps right, then you should win the game. And that's actually what we did. And not like Team USA, who made errors, and we just hit the ball. We didn't make errors, and I think that's why we won. We should win.
Speaking with Tal Erel, the Israel national baseball team. Now, you've done a lot of great things already in your young career. You're only 17 years old. Last year, 2012, you were invited to play for the senior national team for the World Baseball Classic. You were the youngest guy there. Tell us about that experience.
We flew with the senior national team. There's the World Baseball qualifiers over there in Jupiter, Florida. We had a clinic over there for a week or 2. Brad Osmos came there and coached us. We got plenty of coaches there. We had our couple games over there, and over there you just get taught so much that you don't get here. You get so much more batting cages over there. You get more time over there, individual and not individual, and as a team. You just get more prepared. And hopefully we'll do it again next time.
No doubt about that. Brad Osmus, of course, played for the Houston Astros, was an All-Star in 1999, so that's certainly a good guy to learn from in any case, and he coached the Israeli team in the World Baseball Classic, as you talked about. Now, Tal, you born in the United States. You lived in Miami. You then came at an early age to Israel, and a lot of the guys that are on your team now, you kind of grew up with them. So talk about the camaraderie between some of your teammates that you play with now, and you guys are trying to do good things for Israel.
I play also on the senior national team and also on the junior national team, and we always play together. Some of some of the members of the team are also my local Tel Aviv comrades team. So I see them almost each day, almost every day. So we talk a lot. We talk about different situations. And we always play catch and practice together. So our communication as well is, just like I said, against the USA team. That's one of our powerful places. And I think that's a big advantage. If you're great with your teammates and you have good communication with them, it will help you a lot.
All right, and last question we have for you. I want to take you back to when you were 10 years old. This is 7 years ago. You were the youngest guy again, so you're used to that role for a long time. You played in the European Championship. That's a big deal for anybody, but especially at a young age of 10, traveling to Europe, representing Israel. Tell us about that memory. That must have been also very exciting for you.
Yeah, it was my first time with the Israel national team. I actually didn't know what to expect, but we have the best faculty here. We have the best coaches. So I knew we'll do well, and I didn't know what to expect, but I knew we wouldn't do so bad in the tournament. But we came in 7th place, but I knew we could have done better. We had a couple errors there. Baseball is a game that you need to get fixed, and it's a process for a couple of years, just like the IB does. It works with everyone, and it builds you up to become a better player.
All right, no doubt about that. And Tal, it was great to see you play and your team play in Maccabi, and of course Nate Fish will be running things for Israel baseball, so that's another great guy to learn from. And I'm looking forward to a lot of great things from not only yourself but all of Israel baseball. It's certainly the best is yet to come.
Yeah.
All right, Tal, thank you for being on Louis Live. Be well. We will speak with you soon.
Thank you very much.
All right, that was Tal Erel. Coming up next is Sandra Marcantonio. This is Louis Live on TLV1. Back here on Louis Live on TLV1. Just a quick correction, by the way. Tal Erel was born in Israel. I accidentally said United States. I meant to say he grew up early years in the United States, but he was born in Israel. We're going to switch gears to talk about the world of running with our very special guest, Sandra Marcantonio. Sandra, welcome to Louis Live on TLV1.
Hello, Ari.
It's great to have you on, and you've certainly done a lot of great things already, have some high aspirations to do some even more, and you want to represent Israel in the 100-meter running race. Tell us some of the work you've done, not just 100-meter, 200-meter, 400-meter. You worked with Ben Johnson, who won a gold medal for Canada back in '88. So tell us about some of the training that you've done already for these games.
Sure, absolutely. Well, just to backtrack a little bit, Ari, I was lucky enough to have been a spectator at the London 2012 Summer Paralympic Games, and I was a little bit taken aback when I realized that actually Israel did not have a very strong presence in the athletics. And so I came to Israel. I've been here for 6 months, and initially when I had met with Coach Roman Friedman, who is my current coach, we briefly spoke about Israel's future presence in the Paralympic Games, and we're working towards getting a stronger presence, especially in the athletics department. Just to let you know that, if I'm not sure if you're aware, but Israel in the summer 2012 Paralympic Games had 25 competitors across 9 different sports, and we ranked 45th. At the end of the Summer Paralympic Games, 45th, and we actually only grabbed 1 gold, 2 silver, and 5 bronze medals. And so there's definitely some work to be done. I would love to have, to see Israel have a stronger presence, as I mentioned. And so myself, as a competitive sprinter, I'm now 37 years old. I'm kind of off the map for competing competitively for myself. So I kind of really want to get a presence in blind sprinting. We call it the T11, T12, T13 categories. And so sprinters are visually impaired, and they're given a choice depending on how visually impaired they are to have a guide sprinter.
Wow.
And so it would be fantastic to represent Israel and to be a guide sprinter for some of the athletes that need the help. And let's see where it goes. Being very hopeful.
Wow, so much just to talk about what he said. First, 2012, that was embarrassing for Israel, not just the Paralympic Games, but all the games, because there was actually a committee that investigated why Israel did so bad, no medals. In Israel's history, they've only medaled 7 times and only 1 gold, which was a type of surfing, basically, and it was pretty embarrassing. So this is an example of Israel's got to shape up. They got to get their game together. Excuse me, I said sailing. I meant to say sailing, not surfing.
Sailing, yes.
Sailing,
yes.
not surfing. Sorry about that. It is still sad that it was only 1 gold so far. But what can Israel do outside of practice? I mean, what can they do to have more presence at the Olympic Games and the Paralympic Games as well, so you can one day be a guide racer and help someone get a few gold medals? So tell us about that.
Absolutely. Well, I'm a Canadian, and in the last about 3 to 4 years, I'm going to say, Canada has shifted its focus onto its Paralympic team. There's been increased funding, and there's been, thank God for the media, there's been a lot of recruitment of volunteer coaches and volunteers just in general to help these athletes do what they have to do to make it on the world stage in terms of competing. So I would love to see the Israel Sports Association for the Disabled follow suit and step up and say, we need X number of volunteers, and we want to, get athletes into X number of meets per year, and really try to get the word out. I've actually approached the Jerusalem Institute for the Blind. I live here in Jerusalem, and I've asked one of the head coordinators there to put together a running program for some of the athletes that are already training there. They've got some great sports programs in place, but unfortunately none for visually impaired athletes in terms of running. So, it would be great to see that turn around.
All right, now to be a guy, again, that's just a tremendous, mitzvah kol gavah, because I imagine if someone's running and they're visually impaired, they have to put so much trust in you. They have to trust physically you'll hold them up, if they are about to step into something. I mean, things like that. Trust also on almost a spiritual level that you're going to guide them to the right way and that you have their best interest. So how do you get somebody's trust that can't literally see you? I mean, how do you go about doing that?
Well, it's a very, very long process. It starts with building just a friendship and, putting in the time, putting in the volume, putting in the dedication, just like any other athlete would. And it's almost like finding a relationship. You have to see, are you going to be the right fit for this person? And sprinting alone is very technical, very difficult as it is. But actually, when you're tethered to somebody else's wrist and you're coming out of the blocks, exploding out of the blocks, two human beings coming out, you have to time it perfectly. It is extremely difficult, and it definitely comes back to developing a lot of trust and just a great relationship. And there's got to be good chemistry, and more importantly, there's got to be the commitment on both sides to do what you got to do to make it to the world stage, the world level.
Now, also, when you're practicing with someone that's visually impaired, let's say they're running maybe half a speed, let's say, is it hard for you to kind of slow down and run at the same level with them and kind of work them up to a good speed that fits with your speed and have a good speed chemistry, if you will?
Yes, well, absolutely. That comes with a lot of practice. You have to, obviously, you have to be in sync, and that comes down to the basic mechanics of sprinting. It's speed times stride length, right? So stride length times stride frequency. You have to make sure those things are in sync in order to run the best race for both of you possible. And there's a lot that goes into it. I'd love to have everybody that's listening right now just check out YouTube and watch some of these races and see how amazing it is to see how in sync these two athletes are. And to know that an athlete with complete visual impairment can break world records, it's just incredible.
Where could they, what should they type into YouTube? I want to check that out myself when I get back home. What should they type in?
You can type in T11, T12, or T13. That's capital T, 11, 12, or 13. And you can type in either 100, 200, 400 meter. You can have all different lengths of races, distances that you can watch. There's even the middle and long distance events. And so it's T11, T12, T13, and those are categories that denote that the athlete has a visual impairment.
Okay, a couple of things before we let you go. First, what would be the next target goal of a race that you're looking at that you want to get yourself involved in and compete? What would be the next one you want to do?
Oh, well, that's a good question. We do have a winter season here, which it's going to be interesting for me because this will be my first winter season here in Israel competing. But we're looking at probably March or so, and hoping that it all works out in terms of getting the right fit, the right athlete to run with here in Israel.
All right. Everyone listening definitely should be involved in some way, shape, or form, even if it's not financially. Clicking like on a Facebook, something, whatever it is. What can people do? Where can people go to help you out with this great cause of yours?
Well, it would be great to check into the Jerusalem Institute for the Blind's website.
Okay.
We will be recruiting volunteers for the running program that's taking place soon enough, probably starting at the beginning of November. That would be a great place to start. Or, they can even contact me directly, and I can give them further details.
Okay. And what's the best way they can find to contact you?
Facebook would be great. It's Sandra Marcantonio.
Okay, and last question for you. You also have a big project coming up in December. Tell us about that. It's a new type of gym, I understand. Tell us a bit about that.
Yes, it's at New Body, Israel. We are located on 19 Hillel Street on the 3rd floor. It is going to be the home of the Jerusalem Big Blue Lions football team. So it's the project, the two minds that came together, and I'm helping them out. It's Dwayne Xanders from the U.S. and Ophir Levine, he's an Israeli citizen, coming together, putting Jerusalem's premier, first of its kind, cross-training and yoga studio. It will be the home of a CrossFit affiliation, first in Jerusalem. So we're really excited about this project. And I'm really excited to be helping train the Jerusalem Big Blue Lions. Shout out to my friend Ophir Levy, who actually introduced me to the team in the first place. And I'm really excited to put this program into place for the players and even for the late. Excuse me one moment. Just had a little ring on the phone.
Sure.
Even just a lay person off the street. We want to train the elite athlete, but we also want to train the Haredi Jewish woman who needs to squeeze in an hour of fitness per day. So really excited about this. We're going to be opening on December 1st, grand opening, and really excited about it. You can check us out on our Facebook page. That's New Body Cross Training and Yoga.
All right. Sandra, God bless you. Great stuff, and we'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ari.
All right, we'll be right back after this. This is Louis Live on TLV1. Back here on Louis Live on TLV1. Once again, if you want to follow us on Twitter, that's at TLV1.fm, or if you want to email me personally, arilouisshow@hotmail.com, ARILOUISSHOW@hotmail.com. Thanks again to Sandra, Mark Antonio for coming on the program. We're going to switch gears and talk a little hockey with a good friend of the program, Alex Aronov. Alex, how you doing out there? Welcome to Louis Live.
Welcome.
Let's talk first about personally how you got into hockey. How old were you when you started playing the sport on ice?
I've been 10 years ago. It was 11 years ago I started to play hockey. It's cool, like a hobby. And now I'm playing in national team of Israel.
So that's certainly exciting. I mean, did you ever think you'd be able to turn a hobby into something where you're representing Israel on the national level? How surprised were you that you're able to do that?
It's very surprised because I worked very, very hard to get to the national team. It was very hard, and when the coach told me that I'm going to play with the national team, I was very surprised.
All right, so you were shocked. I mean, tell us what the training is like. Tell us what the work is like, and how many games do you play when you're on the national team?
When I play in the national team, we're playing only out of Israel in World Championship and only there. In Israel, we're playing by teams from each city.
Okay, so Israel is by each city. Tell us the competition. Is this college level type of playing, professional, somewhere in between? What is the level of competition like for you when you're playing against these teams?
The competition is very good. There is a lot of good players in Israel in each league. The kids, the junior, and the senior teams. It's very hard and very fun.
All right, and tell us about some of your teammates that, what are you able to learn from the guys you play with, and also what are you able to learn from the coaching staff, and how much do they work with you to make you a better player?
They worked with me a lot of years and promote me for a long time, and I learning from them a lot because I'm starting to coach kids. I've been a few months ago in Finland to learn how to play and how to coach kids. And it's very hard to coach kids.
So do you think maybe, even though it's hard, that you might go in a coaching direction when you're done playing the sport of hockey?
Yeah.
Traveling to Finland just to learn how to coach kids, I mean, that's impressive. Does the Israel Hockey Association do a lot of things like that? Do they have a lot of trips for these players to go to different places to learn how to coach, learn how to play, and just to learn to be better hockey players?
Yeah, but it's very expensive, so there is no a lot of flights to camps and stuff like that because the Ice Hockey Federation don't have a lot of money because the country didn't give us too much.
Right. That's certainly a claim of a lot of sports. A lot of sports out there don't like the amount of money that they get from Israel. They don't think it's enough. But do you guys make what you have? You kind of, as the saying goes, necessity is the mother of invention, that you don't have that much money, you don't have a lot of things resource-wise, but you put together what you can, and you're able to go out and represent Israel on the world stage.
Yes.
All right. Tell us also, we talked about the competition. Your friends, do you have friends against other teams? You're playing against other teams, and your friends are on the other teams, and you have to go up against them. Tell us what that's like for you to play against your friends.
Actually, all the teams, they're friends. Everyone know everybody. It's fun. In the game, we're enemies, and we give 100% fight. And after the game, we're going to eat together at pizza or something else and have fun.
Yeah, I understand a lot of times some of the players will travel together to a game, and then they get out of the car, and then they're going to play against each other. Does that ever happen? Have you ever experienced that?
Yes. It's happened almost every time. We take buses for two teams and going to McDougall to play.
Is that all a little weird for you? You sit next to a guy that you're going to maybe crash into the boards, or you might accidentally hit with a stick or purposely hit with a stick. Is that a little weird for you to sit on the bus next to that guy?
No.
All right. Well, you got ice in your veins, my man, Alex. I don't know if I'd be able to do that. Last question for you. Tell us about your next games coming up, and where can people see you play and see the league some more?
They can see me playing in McDougall and in Hulon. In Holland, there is ice rink, very small, but we still can play 4-on-4.
All right. That's good stuff. All right, Alex, we appreciate the time here on Louis Live on TLV1. Best of luck to you representing the national team, representing Israel, playing on the national team. We appreciate it, and we'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Bye.
guys. David Z. Harris on the other line. This is Louis Live on TLV1.
שמנה של 20% ריבית לאיזה 100 שנה תנאים מצוינים למשכנתה נוחה עם קרן לפנסיה ונקודות יציאה אני לא רוצה לקבל החלטות לקחת אחריות להתחשב בנסיבות לדעת מה אמרו אתמול בחדשות אנשים קטנים עם בעיות גדולות אני לא רוצה להתבגר להשלים להסתגר לקבל את זה ולוותר אני לא רוצה להתבגר הבוס על הראש 2 מכוניות וילדות 3 ועד הבית, משמר השכונה לריב עם השכנים ולטפל בגינה לא צריך להחזיק מניות לקנות חיים זה לא אומר לחיות ללמוד להתפשר ולעגל פינות המון מציאות אבל אין חלומות לא רוצה להתבגר להשלים, להסתגר לקבל את זה ולוותר אני לא רוצה להתבגר להשלים, להסתגר לקבל את זה ולוותר אני לא רוצה להתבגר כשהכל כבר צפוי וגלוי וידוע ואין יותר סודות, הכל בתוך הריבוע להיות מכובד, מיושב ורגוע לשלם את המיסים, לשלם את הביטוח אני לא רוצה לאבד את זה ולהפוך להיות אחד כזה אבל לא קונים אותי כל כך מהר לא קונים אותי כל כך מהר לא רוצה להתבגר להשלים, להסתגר לקבל את זה ולוותר אני לא רוצה להתבגר לא רוצה להתבגר להשלים, להסתגר לקבל את זה ולוותר
Back here on Louis Live on TLV1, time to turn our attention to soccer, also known as football for everyone who's not American. The fans here in Israel are often fanatical, even though many of the stadiums are half empty. There are amazing players, but Israel rarely succeeds on the international stage. To learn some of the reasons behind these conundrums, on the line is David Harris, presenter of Goal, the World Soccer Show, and lifelong Manchester City fan. David, welcome to Lewis Live on TLV1.
Thank you very much indeed, Ari. Good luck with the new program. And I didn't know that you knew the word conundrum. Well done.
Well, I had to practice that a few times, but I finally got it down. I was a little nervous I botched that. I'm not going to be saying that again. Now, tell us about the team. You support Manchester City fan. That's, of course, outside of Israel. In Israel, which team do you support?
I don't.
You don't support any team. Why not?
Because, to be perfectly honest, the standard of Israeli football, the standard of team play in Israel is so low that I don't spend any time really watching Israeli football. I know, I've moved here, I'm a Zionist, I love the country, but the football sucks.
Okay, so that's what's wrong with Israeli football, but what's right with it, if there's anything?
Okay, well, let me be a little bit more sort of detailed than just saying it sucks.
Sure.
The major problem that we're facing in Israel is actually comes from a good point of view, which is that we have tremendously skillful players playing across Israeli football from the schools all the way through to the top league. The problem is that we don't have teamwork. It doesn't exist. It's a group of 11 individuals trying to show off what they can do. Now, let me give you an example, though, of where you're asking about the good, where there is an attempt to turn that positivity into something that actually works rather than it becoming 11 greedy players. And that's the example of Maccabi Tel Aviv, which is arguably Israel's biggest team, Israel's most successful team. What they've done over the last couple of seasons is to start to bring in foreign coaching staff, whether it's the actual manager himself or the scouts or the guys who actually go out on the fields and work with the players. The team is coached now by somebody by the name of Jordi Cruyff. Now, anybody who remembers soccer in the 1970s will know the Cruyff name. His father was Johan Cruyff, arguably the greatest soccer player that ever lived, certainly one of the top three. So Cruyff's son, Jordi, is here. He's incredibly impressed with what he's seeing in terms of the technical skills of Israeli players. Now what he's trying to do is to say, hang on a minute, guys, not all of you can be strikers. Not all of you can be out there scoring the goals. Some of you have to defend. We have a nation of people who want to be the goal scorer. But that's not what soccer's about. Yes, the goal scorer gets all the headlines, but it's about a team. It's the 11 players on the field plus the substitutes and so on. And he is trying to teach them, hey, you know what, guys? You've got to defend as well. It's refreshing, it's new, and guess what? Maccabi Tel Aviv are playing really well this season.
All right, so this is very unique because I never heard why Israeli soccer is so bad. It's basically a lack of teamwork. Is it more important in soccer to be together as a team than other sports? Because in basketball, Michael Jordan basically could do most things by himself and the Bulls win championships, but you're saying soccer, it just doesn't work that way.
Look, I think it's very difficult to compare basketball to soccer, but let's face it, the court that you're playing on in basketball is not so big. It is possible for one player to cover that ground. It's impossible for a player to do that on a soccer field. There is no way. Yes, you can run, the top players can be running 11 kilometers through a game, something like that, a tremendous amount in the 90 minutes, but you can't be everywhere. You've got to have that teamwork. You've got to have the vision. You've got to be able to play the ball from defense through midfield onto the attackers. Interestingly, a lot of European teams are now thinking about dispensing altogether with an out-and-out striker. What they're doing is they're realizing that teamwork is the best way forward. The way they're doing that is cramming 5 or 6 players into midfield, getting them to work as a team, having a couple of defenders joining them, and jointly they're pushing up the field to score the goals. Barcelona have mastered this. They can win games, and we've seen how they do this, without having a single striker on the field. It's quite amazing.
All right, with David Z. Harris here on Lewis Live on TLV1. Let's talk about the divide between Jews and Arabs here in Israel. How does it show itself in soccer?
Well, here I'm maybe going going to surprise you and be very positive. Yes, there's the highly reported division between Beitar Yerushalayim, the Jerusalem team, and say, for example, Bnei Sachnin, which is predominantly an Arab team. Yes, there have been issues. Yes, there are racists amongst the fans in the stadium at Beitar Yerushalayim. People in government, in the club management, are trying to rule that out. That's the negative. Let's talk about the positive. While we talk about Jewish teams and Arab teams, it is highly inaccurate. If you ask anybody who's followed Hapoel Tel Aviv, for example, over the years, or Bnei Sachnin, an Arab team, we will tell you that either the management or the playing staff or both will have multi-ethnic, multicultural players. There'll be Arabs, there'll be Jews, there'll be Russians, there'll be Ethiopians, there'll be Christians, there'll be, you name it, Druze players. They all mix in together in Israeli teams. And on top of that, Arab players have been incredibly successful on the national team, even though the national team, because of the reasons we talked about before, hasn't been successful in European and world football. It must be pointed out that one of the European campaigns that Israel had, 70% of all of the goals that were scored by the Israeli national team were scored by Arab players. So there is integration. It's very positive, and it's something that we need to shout about both in Israel and overseas.
All right, the last minute we had with you, you've told it like it is. You've been very honest. Tell us about the future of Israel football.
Okay, look, the stadiums here, the stadia are very poor. The infrastructure isn't good. Attendances are not high. But all of that having been said, right now, today, there is a comprehensive training program throughout the country at school level and above. Schools, community centers, working very hard. There are coexistence programs between Jews and Arabs based on soccer, whether it's between villages or towns or within, for example, Jerusalem. In Jerusalem, there is a whole coexistence program, a league run between Jewish and Arab kids. And you know what? The most important thing of all is, if we're building up great players with the techniques, we've got to keep them in Israel. It can't be that every time there is a top player, they get sold off to, or they want to go to, a team in England, a team in France, a team even in Belgium. We've got to stop that, and that's the most important thing. We've got the kids, flow them through the teams, and let's keep our talents at home.
Well said. Really can't be said much better than that. I hope everyone in any type of power or influence of the soccer world listen to David C. Harris here on the show. David, great to have you back on. It's been too long. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Take care, man. Talk soon.
All right. David C. Harris. We'll take a musical interlude. On the other side, it's BMAC after this.
Shut your mouth 'cause you're talking too much and I don't give a damn anyway. Shit, and all you really do is complain. It should lie, tell it how you like. Small minds seem to think alike. Shut your mouth 'cause you're talking too much and I don't give a fuck anyway. Let yourself go, let yourself go, let yourself go. Let yourself go, let yourself go, let yourself go. Let yourself go, let yourself go, let yourself go. Let yourself go, let yourself go, let yourself go. Up your every last breath and I don't give a fuck anyway. Let yourself go, let yourself go, let yourself go. Let yourself go, let yourself go, let yourself go. Let yourself go, let yourself go, let yourself go. Let yourself go, let yourself go, let yourself go.
Back here on Louis Live on TLB1. Once again, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at TLB1.fm. Or you can email me personally at arilouisshow@hotmail.com, ARILUISSHOW@hotmail.com. Thanks again to David Z. Harris for coming on and telling it like it is in the world of Israel soccer. We're going to switch gears and talk about Israel-American football with my main man who won a championship last year, Brandon McDougall. Brian, welcome to Louis Live on TLV1.
What's up, Ari? How's it going?
It's going great. It's been too long since we had you on for an interview, so there's a lot to talk about. You are going to make an announcement at the end of this segment of what you're doing next season, but before we get into that, how does it feel to be a champion, man?
Ari, it feels great, man. Great. Like, it feels like everything that I went through for a reason, and I'm actually glad that I made that change, going from the Swarm to the Sabres. Not taking anything away from the Swarm, but I think it was the best decision that I made.
Now, in the Swarm, you're really the star of the show. I mean, there's been obviously Chandaron, there's other players. With the Sabres, you shared time with the Zinker brothers, mostly Corey Zinker in the backfield. You obviously have some champions there. They won 2 titles before you got there. So what was that like to integrate yourself with a team that had won 2 titles before you even step on the field?
I felt right at home because most of the guys are like, either Americans or Jewish Americans, so they already know the game. So it was like taking something that just automatically goes together, just meshes together. So we didn't have to work on chemistry. It was just already there. Because sometimes in the huddle, there wasn't plays being called. We would just say, all right, we're going to do this, you do this, break on 2, and we go out and make it happen. It felt good.
It was certainly one of the most talented Eiffel teams, if not the greatest. I mean, you guys went undefeated. Did you really expect to go undefeated before the season started?
Before the season started, honestly, I wasn't for sure. I thought we'll lose 1 game, maybe 2. But as it got closer to the season, once I actually seen everything, beginning to transform, and then from the beginning of the season, John and Coach Mike was saying, we're going 12-0 this year. We're going 12-0. And after the first 2 games, or actually the first game against Haifa, when we played without a Diakami at quarterback, we had our backups at, John Kern and Moore. So we made it happen. So I was like, okay, it's definitely going to happen.
And not just winning every game. Most games were blowouts. The closest regular season game, I think, you guys won by 22 points. In the title game, the Rebels did have a lead in the late third quarter. Were you all nervous? Be honest with us if you can, please. Were you all nervous in the third quarter? Hey, we might lose this one.
I can't say we was nervous, but I can say we was upset with ourselves the way we played. Because we didn't play like we normally play. We didn't play, Sabre football. But I can't say we was nervous. We went back to the huddle. We regrouped, said, okay, this is what's going on. This is what we need to change. And we went out and made it happen.
In the fourth quarter, you guys really took it on. You won that game. You guys won that game by about 3 touchdowns. Was there a particular play that really catapulted you guys? You said, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to win the title.
I think what did it was the interception by John Kern. So that's actually what changed everything right there.
All right.
Once you got that interception, that changed it.
Now, in that game against the Rebels, because the IFO Bowl is in Jerusalem, you were basically playing an away game. Your team was more or less on the road. That was the Rebels' home turf. The fans were on you. It was very loud. What was that like playing in that atmosphere where, ideally the Israel Bowl would be a neutral field game, but it's not the way it is. And you guys were booed a lot. They didn't want your team to win. How was it to play in that type of atmosphere?
Honestly, it felt great. It felt great. The reason it felt great because the guys told me, you're going to hear everything is going to be so loud, right. In the huddles. You're not going to be able to hear the snap count. And, that's something that you dream about being on a big stage. So being on a big stage and having everybody just wanting us to lose, I embraced it.
Speaking with BMAC, Brandon McDougall here on Louis Live and TLV1. Now, good friend of yours, Dr. Keith Noble, was broadcasting that game on TV. He plays also for the Rata Sharon Hammers. What was that like for him, for you? You guys know each other very well. He's broadcasting the game. You're playing in on television. So what was that like in your guys' relationship?
Oh, man, it was great. Like I said, me and Dr. Noble, man, we have a really good relationship. We actually started speaking to each other before we even got to Israel, a few months before. We linked up over Skype and we started talking about, what was expected once he got here. And, he was really excited, pumped up about the league. But just being able to have him in the booth, actually it felt great to have what I would like to call one of my very own calling the game with him and Steve. not talking bad about anybody, but I'm just not can't really say Steve and I get along that great. But it felt good to have someone there that I, seem to get along with.
Also, tell it like it is. We appreciate that. Now, your team, undefeated team, first team in Haifa history. 2 years ago, the Rebels had 7 college players, and Alex Weka plays in Michigan now. I'm guessing you think your team would throttle that team, or would that be a close game? If that team played the Sabres team from last year, what would happen?
Are you talking about the Rebels team when Alex played?
Yeah, 2 years ago, 2011, yeah.
Wow. I think that would have been a really good game. We'd have had, 2 of the top quarterbacks in the league. I think the Sabres would have taken the backfield. You have the Eliron brothers. When the 3 of them, they were beasts on the field. I think it would have been a lower scoring game than what it was.
All right.
But overall, yeah, it would have been a really close game. Really close.
That's the game I want to see. If you guys ever play a Legends game or something like that, that's the game I want to see. A few more minutes with you, B-Mac, before we let you go. You talked about how big it was for you to score the touchdown in the first All-Star game in Haifa history. Now you're part of a team that's undefeated, the first time that's ever happened. Is this, in all seriousness, will you look at this when you're an old man and point to that and say, I was a part of that team, the first undefeated team in Haifa history?
Yes, I will, and I would gladly say it. Regardless of what the outcome was at the end of the game, I'd gladly say that I was part of that team.
All right, now everyone's listening in. They want to know, of course, you started your IFL career with the Beersheba Black Swarm, went to the Tel Aviv Sabres last year, won the titles we talked about, had a great season. What are you doing this season coming up? All of IFL Nation wants to know, so go ahead, stage is yours. Tell us what will happen.
What will happen this year, Brandon McDougall, number 20, will be retiring from the league completely.
Wow.
Completely. I would not be a part of any team. If I was going to play with the Black Swarm, I will say now that I think my role would have been different. I would have played quarterback. If I was going to play for the Sabres, I would have been back in the backfield again. But this year, I won't be in Israel. Maybe I'll come back and visit championship game, but I don't see myself playing any more football in Israel because I would not be there.
All right. Well, there you go. You have it, folks. B-Mac announced his retirement here on my show on Louis Live. I appreciate that. You were able to go out in the sunset, as they say, with the title. So congratulations on all of that, and thank you for making your announcement on my show. You've supported me for a long, long time, so certainly appreciate this as well.
Oh, no problem. All right, no problem. Like I said, I'm going to be keeping up with it. I've already subscribed to the newsletter. I'm all over the Facebook and everything. So anytime you want to have me on to talk about the league, I'm going to do my best to stay up to date with it. And, I'm just waiting to see what records are going to be broken.
There you go. All right, B-Mac, thanks so much, man. I'll see you on Facebook. We'll be in touch. Be well.
All right, Pimp. Take it easy.
All right. That was Brandon McDougall here on Louis Live on TLV1. That's the end of our program, so I want to thank everyone who came on. Joe Robbins discussing Maccabi Haifa's blowout loss to the Phoenix Suns. They take on the Pistons tonight, so check out that game at NBA.com. Tal Erel, who plays for the Israel national baseball team, still upset a few months ago over the Maccabi games and how that turned out. Sandra Marcantonio, who is a guide runner with the visually impaired, certainly great stuff there. Alex Aronov, who sits on a bus next to guys he plans on checking in a hockey game and doesn't think it's weird at all. David Z. Harris saying the problem with Israel soccer is the fact they're too selfish and don't play together. And Brandon McDougall announcing his retirement here on Louis Live on TLV1. Want to thank everyone involved, production staff, Tammy Goldenberg behind the glass, Lior Peleg doing his stuff to the left of me, and Tomer Gersherman doing the music. We appreciate that. Stay tuned for a lot of great programming on TLV1 and a lot of great, great stuff. But that's it for tonight. God bless and good night.
says we're laughing